Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today's is a good one. We're going to talk about the advantages that you can get by leaving your Texas rigged weight unpegged versus a pegged weight for your Texas rigs. In my opinion, you can generate a lot of additional strikes by leaving your weight unpegged, and I've got for you three very distinct advantages to an unpegged weight versus a pegged weight for your Texas rigs. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before I get into it, I want to remind you we've got a new YouTube channel out called Bass Fishing Declassified. Go check it out. The link is in my video description. It's myself, Johnny Schultz from Fish the Moment, Miles Berghoff, Kyle Cordiana, Jimmy Easterling, and Randy Blockett, all providing content that's going to be based on regions. So we're going to talk about what's going on in different parts of the country so that you guys can see how baits, how techniques, how different structures all set up different throughout the country. And it's going to be very valuable. I think you'll learn a lot. So go subscribe to that channel if you want some more content. It's called Bass Fishing Declassified. I'm really looking forward to pumping out a lot of content for that channel as well. Also, guys, if you want to support the channel, please do your Tackle Warehouse shopping using my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. It's a great way to support the channel and very, very much appreciated. All right, so let's talk about Texas rigs. I get questions all the time from people about why I leave my Texas rigged weight unpegged, because that's one of my go-tos. I only peg my Texas rig weights if I absolutely have to. If my sliding weight is causing me problems when I'm fishing the Texas rigged weight. This can happen sometimes if I'm fishing, say, bushes. If I flip into the bush, maybe my line or my bait and the weight get kind of separated, and therefore my bait's hung up in the bush, and I can't be very efficient fishing the bushes. It can happen around fishing thick grass at times too. But generally speaking, I try to leave my weight unpegged, and I've got three very, very distinct reasons why. So I've got here just a basic Texas rig. I do have a bead in between my weight as well as my bait. In this case, I don't always use a bead, but for this instance, I want to show you one of the reasons why I do leave my weight unpegged and will use a bead. So the first thing to point out here is anytime you're talking about Texas rigs, one of the most beneficial aspects to a Texas rig is its weedlessness. So you do not want to do something that compromises the weedlessness of your bait. And that's the biggest thing that's going to determine whether you leave your bait unpegged or pegged. But the majority of the time, your structure is not going to be so thick, the cover is not going to be so thick that your unpegged Texas weight is going to hurt you. In fact, it will help you. The first, and this is the biggest reason I like to do it. So when I bring my Texas rigged weight through the water, my weight separates from the bait. My weight will be the first thing that hits the bottom. My bait will then glide and slowly fall to the bottom. That's a really good way to generate strikes, to have something that's just tantalizingly falling and gliding to the bottom. This is a very, very similar idea to the free rig. A free rig is meant to slide away, and then your bait just has a nice slow glide to the bottom. So by leaving your weight unpegged, that separation will allow your bait to get some very natural movement, and that's one of the best ways to generate additional strikes. If you leave your weight pegged, that bait's going to fall vertical and just stay on the bottom the whole time. You don't have any of that free-flowing motion. So that's one of the biggest things for me as to why I like to leave my bait unpegged. This is a huge benefit to the angler if you're talking about periods where the fish are not in a very active mode or not aggressively feeding. The springtime can be a great example. If you're fishing around areas where you think there may be fish that are bedding, you will get a lot more bites by letting your bait slowly fall to the bottom than if it rapidly falls to the bottom, because those fish are not actually trying to eat, they're guarding their nest, and something that's slow falling is more of a nuisance to them or something that they want to get out of their bed more than something that falls fast and then is quickly out of the bed area. So anytime I'm fishing a Texas rig, if I can get away with it, I'm going unpegged. But that's not the only reason why I like to leave my weight unpegged. The second has to do with my fish landing percentage. So once I've had a fish bite, I set the hook, that percentage of me landing that fish after I set the hook to getting it in the boat is better by having an unpegged weight. The reason for that is when you're fighting the fish, oftentimes your weight will slide way up the line. When your weight is removed from the bait, that takes a lot of weight away and leverage away from the fish. So if they come up and jump and shake the bait and this weight is attached to the hook, they have an easier time backing that hook out of the hole that you've created when you hook them. So when you're fighting the fish and the weight slides away, there's very little leverage here for them to shake that hook. So that's something that comes into play but is rarely talked about, because your landing percentage with an unpegged Texas rigged weight will be way better than it is if you've got a pegged weight. The other reason I like to leave my weight unpegged is because I can generate some sound. In this case, if my weight separates and slides back, at some point I'll get some noise and some clicking sound. So if I'm fishing some muddy water or off-colored water, or I've got an active feeding window where I'm trying to draw fish from further away and I want a little bit of sound, you can get that with an unpegged weight. If I have a pegged weight, you don't get any movement. I cannot generate sound from this bait because it's pegged. So those are three very distinct advantages to an unpegged weight versus a pegged weight when you're talking about Texas rigs. So guys, if you're not using a Texas rig with an unpegged weight, I think you should at least give it a try. I think you might find that there are some clear advantages, and in fact, you may actually get a few more bites because of it. I know for me, it has increased the number of fish I catch when using a Texas rig, and I try to leave it unpegged as much as possible. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, we got another good tip coming out tomorrow.